Thanks, guys. And incredibly excited for this matchup. You can see the players are having an amazing time out here. Are the fans having an amazing time? All right, guys. As DJ Wheat mentioned, this is a battle between what many consider the favorites of Group B. What should we be expecting from this game, Freak?
Well, we're going to see a very hungry Najin Sword. They lost 1-3 the last time these guys met in a best-of-5 in a tournament in Korea. Now it's a best-of-1 in a tournament in America. So really, really good teams here on both sides. And I'm expecting a tooth-and-nail match. But I've heard a lot of different predictions here. So talking with Team Solomid, backstage before the matches, Reginald tried so hard to bet me that Dignitas would make it out of the group. So everyone's been saying these are the top two teams in the group, but maybe not. TSM really convinced that Dignitas can pull it out, and we saw CLG beat them earlier. Maybe they are the top dog here, but at the same time, Najin Sword really looking to prove themselves. We saw a pretty strong game from them just a second ago. And this is really a very important match for both of these teams, especially if Dignitas is to show up and be a heavy contender here. Both these teams need this win.
So, Freak, these teams coming into this matchup, Najin off the win is going to help. We haven't seen much from Counter Logic Europe, obviously, but they are a team to be reckoned with. They have a lot of strategies to come in here, and those are solid. They're not hugely innovative, but they work time and time again. Sometimes they falter. We saw that happen in Korea, but we'll see if they can pick it up here.
Yeah, so CLG EU, they're very, very strong, and we've seen them time and again, and we mentioned a little bit ago, this is a rematch of the on-game-net Champions Summer League semifinals. And we talked to CLG EU about the recent trip to Korea and what it's like to play abroad.
To Korea, and I thought it was pretty damn cool. We were invited by OGN to participate in OGN Summer Tournament, but it wasn't really only for the tournament.
It was also about having, for the first time, having a gaming house experience.
And that's one of the main reasons we wanted to go to Korea, not just for the $40,000 tournament, mainly for the practice. We were a team relatively new together. We hit the professional scene rather late, in beginning of June. So for 2 months, every single day we were together. We're learning each other's weaknesses or strengths.
We got regular practice against, the top teams in the world.
Korean style is very, very aggressive.
They just have the most good players in league. If you were just to tally up the number of super, super good players from each region, Korea would definitely have the most.
We got whooped at the start, but as we progressed, we started fighting back.
We had to adapt to the Koreans' early game aggressiveness to make sure we got to late game. So by playing against the Korean teams, we learned how do you respond to this aggressive playstyle early. We started off really well, did really good in our group stages, went 3-0, and then kept winning every week until we went to the finals.
I think it was really, really nice to be in Korea. It's definitely something new for me because I've always been living in Denmark.
Living in Korea was interesting, especially food-wise. You were eating different food every day.
And the Asian food is not really my type. It's a lot of seafood.
Their food's a lot more spicier. It's a lot more meat-orientated as well. You're eating, it's pretty much a Korean barbecue a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's been an awesome experience. The tournament itself was absolutely amazing. Not only from the games we played, but also the production value and the venues was just on a whole new level from what we knew before.
It's like the mecca of esports, so it's really professional there.
And it really brought us closer together. And I think from it, we've become a much stronger team.
And I'd say if we survived those 2 months without killing one another, so I think we're good for the future.
And there you have it, guys, straight from the words of their own mouths. It's so big to get that international experience. It pays dividends in the end, and you can see just how much they've really taken from it. But now let's talk about Counter Logic's opponents, Najin Sword, and their keys to beating CLG this time around. Freak, they're going to come in here, and they're going to have to make some early openings in CLG Europe.
Exactly. This is really, it just plays into their playbook so very well. Najin Sword is a team built around Mach Noon. Mach Noon is a player all about fighting early, fighting often, and fighting hard, and everyone on that roster is all about that. You just saw CLG's interview where they said, all the Koreans play really aggressively. We had to learn how to deal with this early aggression, but even still, this is still what Mach Noon and co. really need to do here, is make some early openings in CLG.
And we've seen it. It's a bit of the history. They have had trouble with it, but they need to close the game out, especially against Counter Logic Gaming.
And this you really saw in the first game of their semifinal match where they opened up with a huge lead and it all turned sour at that one dragon fight. And this is back in OGN Summer where Yellow Pete refused to die and picked up basically a triple kill as Kog'Maw, just picking off the enemy champion at the very, very end. This can't happen again to Sword. It's a best of one. They need to come out strong and close the game out. They need to not throw that lead away.
And Freak, the last point talks about top, but it's really about the bottom and mid lane. They cannot focus Wicked this matchup.
Yeah, that top lane matchup is really, in Wicked's words, actually, the top two, or the best two top laners in the game. I asked Wicked, I was like, hey, can you beat Mach Noon? He said it doesn't matter. Why does it matter? Well, it's the best two players in the game. It's just we're gonna play. It's gonna be fun, but it's not a big deal. And we really think that what it's really about here for Sword is actually shutting down Froggen and shutting down Yellow Pete.
Yep.
Where I've always felt that Wicked's a player that no matter what happens to him, he bounces back and is always very successful in his gameplay, no matter what happens early on. Whereas the rest of that lineup, that late game back line dealing all the damage, you can actually shut them down. And when you have an aggressive team, you can put that pressure on, deal a lot of damage, and really bring back those late game carries. If you're worried about CLG making a late game comeback, and you delay those late game champions from really getting any items, there's no real leg to stand on, and that's what they need to do here.
Now, he was let slip through and given to Jokers in the last matchup. The next key that comes out for CLG EU towards Najin is to actually break Mach Noon from getting Shen. But from what we saw, that could also be Jace as well.
So Mach Noon is really the star player. I mean, the team was built for him in the first place. He picked all the players. He's the captain. He's, really that big shot caller for that team. But the games I saw where Najin stood a chance against CLG EU was when he actually had that Shen, because it allowed him to leave his top lane, support his bottom lane there with Prey and Kayn, and make sure that they got ahead. They could crush down on a Yellow Pete and kind of shut him out of the game. And I really felt that global presence, when you've got your best player and he can go all around the map, that's really, really important. Apparently Froggen looking forward to Anivia in this game, putting the wings out. But again, they need to shut down Mach Noon's ability to roam around the map and assist his other lanes. They can isolate him, it's a lot better for CLG.
And obviously something they can always rely on where they feel most comfortable is to play for the late game.
Yeah, it's pretty much an easy key for CLG because they're going to do it anyway. They are all... Froggen, you're distracting my audience. I don't like you very much. But CLG, they're a late game team. They've always been this way. Maybe they pull out something new in this tournament, but I really feel that they're going to build that late game power, and they're just going to keep themselves strong and build themselves up through this match.
And you know what? It looks like Snoopy's not worried about it. They just don't need to worry about falling behind.
That determination. Snoopy refuses to give up. Oh, there's a smile. You can't break. There we go. See, Wicked's at least human here. The rest of them are cyborgs. And anyway, the final thing, though, for CLG EU is not to worry that much about falling behind. After that semifinal match in the Summer League, there was an interview with all the players, and Snoopy said, yeah, we tend to lose in lane. We tend to lose early game. We're not really worried about it. We just win with team fights late game. And they said they've gotten better at fighting those early game battles, but overall, they've still shown the best team fight consistency of any team here. They're still great at late game. As long as they don't get down on themselves, they're still going to bounce back.
All right, Freak, the Gay are in Champion Select. We're ready to jump in and see what Najin Sword and CLG EU can put up for each other. We do have Skarner, Evelynn, and Anivia on the ban list already.
So
Two goes for CLG.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of respect bans right off the bat, and CLG EU banning out Jace as well. This is interesting. All the blue teams here have been banning out Evelynn as a primary pick. I think that's sort of denying that as an option for that 5th slot counter pick there, making sure that she doesn't kind of roll the game around. And the insta-lock looking is going to be Malphite, which does give Mach Noon Shen if he wants it, which does give me a little bit of worries here. But I know Mach Noon's been favoring Jace and Malphite both a lot as well, so I guess that makes sense to deny that Malphite away. It's going to give Wicked really good initiation overall in this lineup. So having Malphite means a couple of different things. He can go into the jungle, he can go into the top lane based on what's available and what he needs to do for his team. That's very, very strong overall. The second point, though, is he's got 2 different roles even among those lanes. He can play as a primary tank, get Frozen Heart, Sunfire Cape, jump on a carry and just kind of sit there and be a meat wall. Or he can go full out damage. Sorcerer's Shoes, Abyssal Scepter, Deathfire Grasp, which is the build that Mach Noon actually really likes to play, and just kind of jumps in and one-shots a carry and plays as an assassin. There's 2 different styles here really available.
And it looks like Counter Logic Europe looking for a little bit of aggression with their picks. They go for the fast, clear, aggressive jungle Shyvana, as well as that support Lulu. Quite a safe support.
This really sets them up for a very huge, beefy front line. So Snoopy's going to be jungling there on Shyvana, and anything that's backed up with a Lulu just makes tanks that much better. Her ultimate just synergizes with that front line so well. It grants bonus health, and it grants them an aura that slows nearby enemies. So when Shyvana or Malphite dives in, then gets that wild growth triggered, there's not much that they can really do. This tank is now slowing everyone around them. You can no longer evade this guy. He's going to completely just dash the hopes of your opponents. Now Najin's sword, they rush to pick up Ezreal, who's very safe. He can kite around, he can dash to the back, he can get away from a lot of things, but he's still a bit frail, and he still, has to, kill the front line before he can move on to kill the back line. So if they can put a giant meat wall in front of Ezreal, they can really delay his damage output and keep him from killing other champions.
And we do see somewhat of a team that can poke a little bit here, and there's another one that will as well, the Orianna Sona grab.
This is really, really strong. So now they've got actually very similar to Lulu when you grab Orianna, is you've got, you can put the ball on a teammate and then really set yourself up for some really big successes. If Maokai jumps on, she puts the ball on, tosses on Shockwave, puts on Dissonance afterwards. You just put a lot of crowd control on the enemy team. Basically Maokai becomes a vessel for that ball to come out and land more crowd controls. They've got a lot of disruption on this Najin Sword lineup. If someone initiates on, they can keep locking up CLG's lineup and keep picking up kills. They've got crowd control in so many places. Ezreal starts out strong and doesn't fall off. They've got a lot of power overall in this group.
Looks like Yellow P is on Tristana, has not locked in yet. We do, however, have that Karthus lock, and they're really looking for a safe pick for the AD carry.
This is basically CLG EU saying we want to pick 2 late game champions, but we want to pick somewhat safe late game champions. Now, no matter who he's against, Froggen really just always does well on Karthus. Doesn't really matter so much. He just always does phenomenally. So he's going to grab that Karthus over and over and over again. There's almost never a reason for him to pick a different champion. He just loves it. It works so well with his team's composition. The Tristana pick is basically just a sideways version of Kog'Maw, where long range, hyperskilling in a late game does a whole crap ton of damage. But the difference is, instead of having quite as much damage as Kog, is instead super safe. Has that rocket jump to get out of bad battles, has that Buster Shot ultimate to disengage the opposition, and when you realize that you're against an Orianna with a Maokai, you might want to pick something a bit safer and instead go for that pickup on that Tristana. So a full late game lineup is here for CLG EU. They've got a great, very disruptive front line and a hugely deadly back line in the end.
I really like this. Macnu going on to Nidalee to verse Wicked's Malphite.
So this is very, very interesting. Macnoon going for that Nidalee wants to play a heavy assassin role, which is scary to me because they're against Tristana, who's going to be able to escape from these kinds of situations. And Nidalee's mid-game is very precarious as well. You often see it being an AD Nidalee who runs for a fast Trinity Force and then builds tanky from there and does all of her damage in Cougar form. Well, when you're up against, Malphite and Karthus and things like that, you're going to take a lot of damage being in melee range just from Defile, just from area of effect damage. It's a pretty risky situation to be in if you're Nidalee. Now, if it's AP Nidalee, maybe that's a bit of a poke comp here. They've got, Orianna in here, they've got Ezreal in here, but they don't really have that same disengage that I would expect to see from a poke comp. So it's Macnoon just really trying to shut down an early mid-game lineup. But as far as endgame goes, they don't have nearly the same kind of endgame as CLG. We'll see if Najin can pull it through, but they've got to pull it through fast.
All right, guys, the teams have made their selections. Najin looks to take Game 2 for themselves here in Group B versus Counterlogic Europe. The teams are going into game right now, guys. If you would like to see Najin take a second game as they go back-to-back, let's hear it for Najin Sword.
And if you want to see Counterlogic Gaming EU avenge their North American counterparts and push on forward, let me hear you for Counterlogic Gaming Europe.
The name still holding true and strong on American soil. You can see that those cheers very much so behind Counterlogic, but the Najin fans are also in the crowd as well. And we are now ready to go in game. Najin Sword on the red team. Blue team is going to be Counterlogic Europe. And I have to say, a very somewhat, not very somewhat, yeah, that works out well, right?
No,
very
great, you're good.
somewhat, I'm going to keep going.
Nice.
Squishy, but really no team, you're going to see turret dives coming from Najin Sword. This team does not look like they can play aggressive under turrets. A lot of them are squishy compared to the Malphite Shyvana and Lulu coming in with shield as well. So we'll have to see what they can do.
It just works out. They've got enough elements that of champions that can just kind of make those turret dives just barely work. So Maokai can disengage from a turret with Twisted Advance. It'll drop him off that turret aggro list, and the turret will switch to someone else. They've got heals and shields coming out from Song and from Macnoon. They've got a pretty decent chance of this, of opening up a turret dive and following through with the various supports around the map. If you look at the bottom lane, again, you've got Kayn on Sona. When she heals a teammate, gives an extra armor and magic resist boost as well. So in any lane, if someone dies, there's someone there to grant armor or health or a shield and keep that person on that dive. So they've got just the elements they need, just barely. It's not one of those primary tanks like an Alistair who hits level 6 and laughs at all damage forever, but they've got what they need to actually make those dives happen. The scary thing, though, still, is that they're trying to dive champions who are very, very safe. Trying to dive Lulu Tristana is going to be super hard, especially Tristana with Cleanse.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. She can already jump away, then cleanse that out. It's going to be very safe. I don't think we've said it enough, so one more time was perfect. 1:30 into this one, no invades coming from either side here. We do see that Maokai starting at his regular rates, and it's just going to be Malphite down with Karthus. They're going to go ahead and grab that. We've seen a lot of teams doing this now. If it's not going to be a jungler that specifically needs that blue, they just go ahead and give that whole lane to that top side.
And it's a really good way to just share resources amongst your team and make sure that you're kind of capitalizing on everything. So Yellow Pea and Krepo right now are finishing the double golems, pulling actually the Lizard to give Snoopy a nice easy start on this red, and they'll still be able to walk in a lane in time to not really sacrifice much experience overall. On the flip side, Maknu not doing much but dropping traps around the map and trying to keep himself safe. So there's a bit of an advantage here for CLG EU right off the bat. They've got just a little bit more golden experience to share amongst their team.
And that blue buff now going to Wicked as he makes his, no, actually going to middle, I should say, as he makes his way top lane. So he's going to be actually quite hurt coming to this one, but MacNoon has expended his mana, so he won't be able to harass as much as he would like. Wicked trying to get that passive to come back up before he moves up to that MacNoon. I believe it was actually on. The shield's quite low at level 1. There it is, broken, and the harassment already starting from MacNoon. Invasion here by Snoopy in the jungle. He finds Watch, and going into the bush, he wouldn't allow him to take the red. He is going to push the flash out, and that is a lot of aggression taken away from Najin's sword from the jungle.
The difficult thing, though, is Snoopy does not have his smite back up. He's going to pull onto this Lizard. They've actually pulled Frog to kind of fence out and zone away Song, so no one's really here to stop this. Wicked takes a bit of punishment, but ultimately with no one around to stop Snoopy, his teammates doing a great job of calling out who's around, who's moving, and who's not. Despite having no smite and being in the enemy jungle, Snoopy is ultimately safe here. He will steal this red away. That is a very big boost to his team.
And that was huge. If somebody were to walk by that, they would have seen that the spawn camp emblem had not died, so you can still figure out that he's taking it. Now that it's down, we're going to be moving off of that, and like you said, Freak, refreshing that red buff and really slowing down that Maokai jungle. He was able to get his blue, so he can continue with that speed, but the presence in lane just won't be as strong. 3 minutes and 30 seconds in, we are going to follow if Europe continues to counter gank these objectives.
This is really going to be the core strategy here for Counterlogic Gaming Europe. They know without a shadow of a doubt that their late game is ridiculously strong as long as they keep the early game from snowballing out of control. But right now they're keeping the early game very, very tight. They're down a couple hundred gold just from minion farm, but in general they're stopping all the possible aggression opportunities. By denying a red buff, you really deny a lot of that gank power that might come out from Maokai. That early slowing from that Lizard buff is very, very powerful. It really helps you pick up kills here. So they're just removing options from the table. Snoopy constantly clearing, leveling up as fast as he can, and he just wants to be present and there to counter gank if something goes wrong.
This is really great harassment by Kane. Usually it's onto the AD carry, but they're just hitting Krepo so hard, forcing him to use all those potions. He's not going to be able to help Yellow Pete in a fight. So what they're doing right now is setting him up almost for the kill, having to flash away from that one. The aggression so strong from that Sona Ezreal poke bottom. But we do see Snoopy coming in, trying to push that lane back and say, not going to go down without a fight in this lane. I am helping each one.
This bottom lane is Kane being a complete boss. He is constantly harassing the opposition. He had a ward down aggressively in the enemy brush. He's going to flash in for some damage on Krepo, and there's the exhaust.
Oh, a little too antsy there. A beautiful shield by Krepo, but he goes in the Ignite. Mystic shot for first blood going to Prey.
That was amazing, and Yellow Pete was a little bit greedy there. He refused to cleanse the Ignite that was put down. That little bit of damage, I think, helped take him down because there's only one bit of damage left, and that was that one Mystic Shot. And I'm pretty sure it was no, he did hit it to level 2 Mystic Shot at this point, but even still, I think he would have been just tanky enough to survive it if he had just, just cleansed that away and said, I don't want to take that damage. But either way, a beautifully timed aggress right there. Najin's sword opening up strong. That is exactly what they need to do. But again, they're on a clock here. They've got to keep it moving because when you hit 40 minutes, it's all going to turn around if they don't end it.
Wicked getting so aggressed on right now, but he's kind of hanging out because he knows MacNoon does not have much mana. He's not going to be able to heal, and he's not level 6 yet, so he can't be in and out on an attack if he needs to. Wicked still playing quite strong here. Like he said before, two of the best top laners in the world going at it. It's no big deal. We do see Snoopy coming up top through the ward. MacNoon heading back to his tower. But he actually, I like that strat. He made it look like he was heading back, seeing the ward, moves back in, but he sees Snoopy again. So he's only trying to play the mind game here, not the visual game.
Yeah, he is absolutely wasting a lot of Snoopy's time. Snoopy will eventually come back in. Wicked, though, still is going to have enough mana for one more Seismic Shard if he does finally come back in. Noctoon with great ward coverage keeps that one away. Snoopy putting an aggressive ward there by the Wraith Camp, and now he's sneaking around through the jungle. Noctoon will not see this come in.
This is the perfect thing he needs to do here. The turret will give him vision right now, and Macnoon is still not level 6. His speed is slowed there by Wicked. The flash is out, the exhaust goes down with the ignite, and Macnoon will surely fall to Wicked. One for the top lane.
Excellent gank overall. That is them all using their summoner spells, and that is why you bring Exhaust on Shyvana. She's normally not the best ganker without any innate crowd control, but she's so fast, durable, and just safe overall that you're allowed to bring an offensive summoner, no flash at all on that champion, and still make those ganks happen without dying in return.
So he does have teleport. He's getting back to lane quite quickly. He's not going to lose too much experience off of that. But now as they go back, that's 2 Dorans going in the hands of Macnoon. And the AP build starting out from Wicked. It looks like they're going to use this ultimate now that he is 6 to start something bottom.
This is going to be very, very scary overall. Macnoon putting on some aggression. He does, actually, he used his summoner teleport here, Macnoon, so he's not going to be able to really roam around the map. I actually don't like that very much. As soon as Nidalee hits 6, she gets a giant spike in power, and with that bottom lane only being 5 and 4, that's actually a very huge relative power jump. So, she really would be able to bully out these champions to make dives happen, but that's not going to be the case here. She's actually going to stay isolated in the top lane for a while and hope that Wicked won't leave either.
They did see Malphite coming around there. There's that vision ward in the brush. They're going to stay back here. It looks like they are making for the counter gank. Prey actually fires one off. They know that this fight will not go well with Unstoppable Force, so he gives away that they have a ward there. He didn't even want to deal with that situation. Sometimes you want to bait it out, Freak, but that was smart play there with the amount of strength they had.
Yeah, even though they had Watch waiting around on the wings, it was still a level disadvantage. If Kayn were 6, they'd say, sure, go for it.
Oh, and as soon as he leaves, they are going to get the kill down, and they just play the momentum of that bottom lane.
Hitting level 6 first is always a huge deal. That is exactly what happened there. They said, okay, Prey, you've got True Shot Barrage, go. No matter what happens, the root will last long enough, and we're going to get that kill onto Krepo. If Krepo were 6, he might have withstanded that damage, but that's what happens. One early advantage means you've got a half-level window to jump when you've got ults, and they don't, and they played that one perfectly.
Macnoon throwing a ward down at the blue bush. They're trying to really get aggressive warding down here. Yellow Pete getting a little more range on his shots, and you can see he's harassing a little bit more with that as his passive makes that range longer and longer per level up. Snoopy down bottom as they're waiting. Krepo to get back to lane. The turret's very low here. They prepped it to be taken down. The aggression from this lane is definitely to dive this turret after it's taken. And Yellow Pete has been staying there quite a bit. We saw Prey pushing him back past the turret as they were farming the minions there. And they have their own minion wave coming back up on this. So they should be safe for now. And we'll see Snoopy return to the jungle.
Yeah, ultimately, they can't aggress on Kayn. He's level 6. Sona has Crescendo and Exhaust up. There is no dive in the world that would work on these guys. As I say, they're probably going to die.
Crescendo goes out. The power cord killing Yellow Pete right away. They turn this one out. Keep trying. Krepo taking a lot of damage. The shield is on. Essence Flux. The caster minions could be the kill, but Prey finally gets the basic attack.
And that is just an ill-fated dive right here. CLG, they know they had the numbers advantage, but they had no health. Kayn just simply sat there and was like, okay, Crescendo to the face, no problem, thanks for the burst damage, and just picked up the kill, and suddenly all the damage up that they were relying on was just gone. The exhaust came out again, and those cooldowns, those are so incredibly important as cooldowns. They were there, and they just turned that fight absolutely around. 2 kills for nothing. Najin's sword, not only are they making the aggressions right here, and then of course as they have matches where they go for the dragon, picking themselves up even farther ahead, but on top of that, they're just getting kills thrown at them as well. This is exactly what Najin's sword wants.
So that turret goes down, a little bit of a gold lead coming in, 3,000 there. Dragon goes down, and they make it 4,500 gold. It's going to be very big for Najin as they come into this game. Kind of finishing some good items, just the boots of mobility for Cloud for Watch to get those ganks down for himself. Healing up off of his passive, continues to go around, but here comes Requiem. It may find him 2 kills, but no, Watch has just enough health, and we see Macnoon go down.
That was actually absolutely perfect play by Wicked, who actually kind of baited some aggression at the turret, and as soon as Macnoon pulled turret aggro, he immediately jumped the Unstoppable Force, roasted all of his cooldowns, including Ignite, and said, Froggen, pick up 300 gold, man. It was very, very good coordination overall, and really good reflexes, Wicked knowing that Macnoon just overextended, and he was going to be low enough to get killed.
CLG getting some pings down bottom saying, I think somebody's in this forward bush, and we can actually see Prey playing quite aggressively as well, going past that river, no wards as the jungler comes up above him, or support rather, in the jungle. They're going to be able to get those safe wards down, going towards Dragon, making sure it's all clear, but they're going to ward Tribush, and that gives them a lot of room here. Warding that Tribush allows them to see everything coming from the opponent's jungle, and not just down the river. Ping's going down in mid, and they say they put a ward there, so be careful.
This is really just great ward coverage overall. If you want to check down the mini-map at the bottom right corner, these are the two major ward spots you care about when you're the red team. It's the ward by the Wraith camp over towards the middle of the map, and then that ward by the Tri-Brush. You cannot get into the river as blue team without running by one of those, and of course those are the other two major gank spots, going through Tri-Brush to lane sneak or just kind of coming down the jungle. So they've completely shut off all of the aggression opportunities, with the exception, actually no, not even with the exception, because they've also warded their very bottom lane brush as well. So there was simply no way for Snoopy to sneak in and screw up their bottom lane. And what Najin Sword is doing, once they've killed that first turret, is they are now freezing the lane. They are refusing to push. They are letting these minions push out to their own turret. Again, they still have the ward coverage to deny any pushes.
A flash in from Froggen. He pulls Watch under the turret. He takes some unnecessary damage. Here comes Snoopy. Snoopy and Froggen get the kills assist. And it looks like Song will stay to fight. He has no mana left as he throws out auto attacks, but they find the kill onto Snoopy to trade the 1-for-1 retribution.
That is why he runs Summoner Teleport on a top laner. You're going to have so much gold and experience being stuck up there farming minions day and night that you will be a huge force to be reckoned with in a battle. Excellent play there, Machnoon turning that one around. But at the same time, look at just the damage output that came in from CLG EU. Snoopy and Froggen working together, really picking up that kill onto Watch. That is painful. He had an Oracle, so another 400 gold down the drain. That's really not tracked in the scoreboard.
Machnoon completely healing that Q damage as soon as it came off. He didn't even see it hit his health bar. And he does have quite low mana here, taking a bit of damage there, puts himself in and out of bush. Not really going to help him too much. Denies vision, gives him a little bit of speed, but he's really just going to push this lane up into Wicked's face and try to continue to break that passive as his. Take some damage down after that. The red buff will also help, and he can really kite this lane. Like I said, out of mana, doesn't really have to use that in Cougar form, just has to wait for the cooldown. So he's not in a terrible position, but still, Machnoon playing up to his regular aggressiveness.
He is playing this lane as perfectly as possible. You look at the minion farm, it's 52 to 108, and he's got a Phage and a Lizard buff, meaning if he ever pulls an advantage, he can just completely shut down Wicked. Just watch him try to run away. That movement speed steal from Seismic Shard lets him run from that battle, but in general, he's going to have a horribly tough time fighting Machnoon here.
Yeah, it does look like he leveled that shard up already. Going for the ground slam and does not yet have anything into Brutal Strikes. Goes ahead and takes a chunk of Machnoon, and Machnoon says that's enough of that situation. I have 964 gold. Going to go back and finish an item for himself. And we'll see if that'll be boots. He may not need that just yet due to his passive, but he does finish those Merc Treads to cut away that, to give him tenacity, to cut away that crowd control that Malphite will be doing. Now top lane, as the bottom turret goes down, you see them transfer up to the top reach.
This is really very typical for a team that starts to play very aggressively. You normally see this kind of play when you lane swap to 2-on-1 lanes from the get-go. But either way, what you've got here is Najin Sword saying, look, we picked up one turret, and now we can build a total lane mismatch here by putting our AD carry and support up against just a 2 versus 1 against Malphite. They're going to go for a lot of turret pressure here. CLG must react to this or lose even more early game advantages.
Snoopy waiting in Baron Den, knowing that Kane is kind of in that bush and he wants them to come down and ward. Little does he know he already warded. I don't think Snoopy has caught that one in front of him with his Oracle just yet. They are setting up top. They know Crepo is with Wicked now, so they got to be thinking, besides seeing Triss bot, actually, where is Snoopy? Chilling out in Baron Den. We see Orianna going back once again to grab the Wraiths. More CS and minion kills. 165 now for Orianna to 182 of Froggen. That early blue buff top lane is going to be hit hard. Kane goes in. The crescendo stops them, but the wild growth comes out, popping up Prey. He had enough time to just while out on that CC, and then they continue to go after the fight. A sliver of health for Snoopy, but Wicked is still quite tanky. They're going to hold off on this and run in with the minion wave. Middle lane going down. Froggen gets hit hard as Machnoon transfers from top to mid.
And that was just amazing reflexes overall. Actually, the fight might still be on. Watch taking a lot of punishment. Prey and Wicked now standing off in that lane. Snoopy with a really nice move. He knew that ward was actually in that river and simply ulted over that Baron wall, tried to flank on behind his opponents. The unstoppable force nearly catching Kane, but he had the reflexes to flash it away and not get harassed there. He managed to turn that fight around and make it safe. As you mentioned, Machnoon making the plays in mid lane. There's a second turret kill picked up for Najin Sword. They want to keep this pressure on. Again, they are on a clock, and the clock only has about 20 minutes left. We need to keep this game forward and really push to the point where even the late game scaling of Karthus can't keep this team alive. If you look at the farm, he's getting there. He's got 180 minions. He is still rich overall. He's containing most of his team's kills. Froggen is going to be the playmaker here for CLG EU. Watch him. He's going to be the guy to make things turn around.
That super early Bloodthirster coming in for Ezreal. It was about 15 minutes actually when he had that. He already has about 30 stacks. He does have 30 stacks on it. You see there's about 80 gold right now in the hands of Yellow Pete, and he has that BF Sword and Scepter. So he's got a good 700-800 gold to go before he can get that. See now as they take down Dragon, that gold going to Najin, and that is just going to put them up 7,000 gold at 16 minutes.
They need to keep doing this over and over and over again. The Dragon kill's good. Mid-turret's got to be next. They need to keep pressing onto their opposition. There's not a lot of great wave clears here from CLG EU. They can't really do much except for Froggen and a little bit from Krepo, but Krepo's not going to be doing all that much damage to him either. It's going to take some time for them to really crush down that minion wave. And meanwhile, Najin Sword, they've got 2 healers. They've got a lot of long-range damage output. They're putting kind of all their tanky cards on Watch and hoping he can scale through this game. And that's actually one small deficit here for Najin Sword. Watch now with Boots Mobility, his second Oracles as well, only 2 assists and kind of low minion farm. Watch is going to be very, very frail throughout this game.
The jump on from Tristana, the buster shot, or rather explosive shot, goes down to try and mitigate any of that healing Macnoon can do to himself. They continue to poke down onto this turret. Macnoon using that poke ability of Nidalee to get back and trade damage in his favor. Looks like he will be returning to base as well with 1,700 gold in his pocket. Gonna get some good items for him, and he'll definitely feel good in that solo lane by himself, picking up the Sheen and starting the Zeal to his Triforce.
Now, Counterlogic Gaming Europe making a good move, pushing for that bottom turret, but the teleport from Macnoon is going to stop them. They all run away afraid. They actually had a ward, seeing that Song was running down as well. They did not want to put themselves into a bad fight situation. Really what CLG wants to do is buy time by starting a turret push and then saying, oh, okay, you're showing up, cool, we'll leave. They just bought another few seconds on the map. And if they keep making moves like this, forcing Najin Sword to run around and react to them over and over, they're going to keep buying that time and keep building themselves great advantages. The difficulty here is it looks like Sword knows about this Golem. They actually do have it warded. They're going to make the play here.
You know, Freak, I'd say at some point it's going to be very scary for CLG EU to fall this behind. Froggen gets almost wiped out instantly. It only took a few spells. Kane follows right behind him in the 1-for-1. The focus is on Snoopy, and all the Najin health bars are still halfway full as Wicked drains down to nothing. Double kill coming in for Prey. Macnoon following from the backside as we have a slow coming from Krepo. And will they follow over the wall? They do. Macnoon in super aggression mode, trying to find that way out, but he cannot do it. Krepo goes down, and it's going to be Yellow Pete left alive bottom. 10-4 in 19 minutes.
And it looks like it's now daylight savings time for Najin Sword. They've just added more time to that clock because when you realize that Tristana is super awesome late game, but only has a BF sword, look at Ezreal. Look at those 6 kills on Prey. He is going to be doing so much damage here that there's not an easy option here. You're just watching these team fights turn around so very quickly. So much crowd control from Najin Sword. They didn't even have to use Crescendo. That's still up for Kane. He was like, yeah, triple kill, no problem. No ult needed. We'll just keep fighting you one at a time. And really, that kind of happened there. CLG EU kind of limped in one at a time, and they're just continually putting on the pressure. They finally picked up that middle turret. That is 3 turrets for them. The Dragon coming up before too terribly long as well. They're going to keep that underway. The Dragon 22:30. It's still a 3-minute timer to go for that to be back up. And you know, they're going to keep pushing onto this, but now it becomes a little bit more difficult for Najin Sword. Again, they're getting very far and they're getting very far ahead, but it's going to be harder and harder for them to force fight. These turrets are now harder to reach. The impact of a single dragon starts to mean less and less as these teams get more gold. The pressure is still on them to make some moves.
So, Freak, we see the importance of farming. 225 minions in mid for Karthus, 221 for Orianna. Obviously, these minions don't just spawn in lane. Where are they getting all of this?
They're running into their jungles and sharing the resources with their teammates. They're running in there and saying, hey, you know, this camp, and it's typically the Wraith camp. That's usually the most frequent one there, is they just run off to that side and pick them out and pick up a bunch of gold. Now, those Wraiths aren't worth as much gold individually as lane minions, so you have deceptively large numbers of minion kills that aren't really worth the same amount of gold each, but it still builds in these really good advantages. They're still getting a lot of gold every time. It's about 60 gold every time you clear that camp out. It's a nice chunk of money. Some even go for the Wraith camps as well and keep clearing more things out.
You see bottom lane going quite aggressive on Yellow Pete. The cleanse is used and he pretty much avoids everything there. And we can just see Najin hightail it out of there saying, wow, we just blew a lot of cooldowns and we're being closed in on. But this could be bad. EU has been on their heels in every fight as Najin turns it around seamlessly within a bush, within the open. And it looks like CLG knows this. They turn around and say that was not our engagement. But look at the split push coming now from Najin. They just leave Prey top, and that is going to be a huge split pusher. Ezreal can get that attack speed up as he hits his abilities and really crush down turrets.
That was a really risky move because they had what was a 4v5 at the bottom half of the map. If CLGE was able to catch them, they could have turned around a 4-for-0 trade right here. Froggen in a duel with Prey, doing so much damage back to him. Can he pick this up?
Oh, he gets the heal. That may be very helpful for him. Wicked is there, however. They put Karthus on the other side as the flash went down. A lot of damage going towards Wicked. He unstoppable forces out of the fight and gets Crescendo to go down after using his ultimate. The focus on Crepo will for sure be a tower dive. And another double kill coming in for Prey. Najin, sword support, Kane picking up a kill as well.
And now up 12,000 gold. They're going to make a move for Baron. They feel strong enough that they've got what it takes to kill off this epic monster here before 22 minutes. CLG EU, Snoopy could attempt for a steal, but he's back in the base right now. And with Ezreal so farmed, I don't know if they quite have the damage out, but Orianna is also great at DPSing single targets. Looks like it's not even going to be an attempt by CLG EU. This will be a free Baron pickup for Najin Sword. They have made all the right moves this game.
Freak, I believe that's the second fastest Baron we've seen in the tournament here. 22 minutes in, they have great items under their belt and almost finished Triforce, which just got finished due to that gold coming from Baron. 8-0-3 on Prey this matchup. So well chunked down, just missing that. Top lane, Snoopy grabbing up these minions, just continuously pushing out. Everything is on their side of the map except for bottom lane right now. And since that Baron objective is down, they can focus there because of Dragon, but it's just going to be hard for them to really stop anything top with a split push bottom.
Exactly, and they're just continuing to scale as well. It's the one really big saving grace here for Najin Sword. While a lot of their champions are mid-game focused, any attack damage carry, especially ones like Ezreal, will scale phenomenally with items. And if you compare directly those two AD carries, you only see a 60 minion kill difference, but actually Prey has about double Yellow Pete's gold. They're about to duel. Watch how easy this is for Prey.
As they come into the lane, Yellow Pete is going to jump. No
Yellow Pete
arcane
runs away.
shift follow. Yeah,
Really hard fight.
Complete runaway. That was a huge fight.
That was a lot of damage being dealt on both sides. That rocket jump really destroying the ground.
How much damage?
A little.
Oh.
They didn't actually kill anyone, I can't say
trolled.
it.
We do see Froggen chasing here. The layaway's just missing. And you're going to catch one of the best escape artists in the game. If he can hit that bush, it's over, and they know it. Getting that passive move speed. Going back into the fight, however, MacNoon loves to taunt.
Yeah, maybe he'll start dancing as they chase him around too. Maybe got some Phantom Dancers, boost mobility, troll everyone like he did Riot, the Invitationals. Jack knows about that one. But Najin Sword, they're just going to keep the pressure on. This is still exactly what they want to do. CLG will never forfeit a game. They will always stick this one out. I mean, there's that legendary group stage game against M5 BenQ at DreamHack where they were down like 17,000 gold, still won. Always
Crescendo bottom. Crepo with one swipe. Actually, rather, that was Froggen going down. Snoopy coming in here. MacNoon able to try and do something for his team. He may go down here. MacNoon just getting out. Can Crepo make the slice? And he does. Hitting him with Glitter Lance. It will be a trade there, however, with the support. Sona now with 3 kills. They take out Shyvana, and it just looks like they will start to crumble under their own turret. They proved me wrong. They have a team that can dive turrets.
And they got to that point there where they've got so much money and so many items. Watch, finally there with the Heart of Gold and the Aegis of the Legion is just tanky enough. And again, they've got heals and shields and more heals. It is so hard for them to actually die when they're together as a team. The extra ability power from Baron Buff going to help that as well. The inhibitors now open as well as Prey just stayed at that top lane, dealing more and more damage here. This is looking like a very nice push here for Najin Sword.
Yellow Pete is just forced to watch his structures go down. The inhibitor falls top. They are split pushing the bottom freak, and this is what I just said. It's going to be very hard with the amount of control they have over this game to even stop this right now. The Aegis is out as well. They're starting to help each other in the area of effect zone. So this is going to be very big for them. Trying to initiate on this fight. MacNoon right in the front with Song. Song being very aggressive right now as they just wipe out Crepo. As they see the health bars go down, this says we want to initiate that much more. Going right in on Yellow Pete. MacNoon hardly taking any damage. And there the Twisted Advance locking up Yellow Pete. They're all about the Nexus turrets now. The inhibitors are down, but they're just fighting for the fountain steps. They are keeping them on the fountain and not even letting them heal. MacNoon getting hit up by the fountain laser, but making it out. The Hex Trigger keeping him alive after that shard hits him. They drop another inhibitor freak, and right now they are just burning down this base with fury.
And this is so good for them. They can actually keep pushing despite being a little bit low on health. The Baron buff offering health and mana regeneration. 2 members of that team actually have heals. Mach Noon is back to half health despite almost dying, taking a lot of damage from that fountain laser just a little while ago. They are ready to push down this mid lane as well. CLG knows it. They're actually set up and ready to defend this. They know that they could really not hold against 3 dead inhibitors. But look at the burst. Froggen taking a lot of punishment as punishment for trying to be, nearby to the enemy team, and they're just going to keep pushing forward. Another turret is about to go down.
This is not going to be good. They have a little bit of time to work with here. EU needs to at least hold off for 3 more minutes. At 29:06, that Baron is going to come back up, and they need to dance it out in the best dance they've ever had of their life. Najin is so far ahead right now, 20,000 in gold, and they have 8 turrets to 0. They have a complete shutout game going for them right here, and that momentum from the first game is just carrying over in numbers.
Oh, wow. And Najin Sword finally getting themselves back into the base as well. Just bought a whole bunch of items. Zeke's, Shirelia's, Rabbiden's Death Cap, another Oracle. So, hey, why not? Let's bring 2, sure. They are just completely scaling throughout this game. You can see a 20,000 gold lead. But the one good thing here for Counter Logic Gaming EU is if they can hold, those 2 dead inhibitors are actually going to feed them a lot of gold. You'll notice that Najin Sword are only farming in their jungle. There's not a lot of gold in the jungle, really. There's a lot more gold coming in from those side lanes. You're seeing Yellow Pete finally finishing that Infinity Edge. You've got Wicked on Malphite finally starting to get some items for himself as well. The Sunfire Cape is done. He's still able to initiate. He's still got a lot of base damage. You've got to realize that even though Ezreal is super farmed, he's level 17, he's got a lot of offensive items, he doesn't have a lot of defensive items. Now, unless Mach Noon and Song can really put up a lot of support onto him in a burst scenario, he is still burstable and killable if all of CLG EU is able to collapse. This might still be risky if the fight goes exactly perfectly for CLG.
Now, Freak, when you're this far behind in the game, and so actually the fight may happen here, so we're going to get ready for that, as Wicked tries to Unstoppable Force through there and execute onto Prey. If his team doesn't have enough damage to follow up, how do you now start this fight that you came to try and do?
Well, they want the turret on their side if possible. Like, this is an example right there where Prey is in there in minion range. He's going to initiate it. Let's see what they can do.
Unstoppable Force and Wild goes for off. Wicked is the focus, and he gets out alive. 2 members drop instantly. Froggen and Snoopy go down. The Requiem comes out for a bit of damage, but it looks like it just tickles Najin. The GGs are coming out as they push the final turrets in the game, and that is going to be Yellowbee heading for his fountain. Mach Noon jumps on the fountain and flashes off the fountain. They are finishing the last Nexus turrets now. We do see them just milling about right in front of the fountain. They are just messing with the fountain laser. The damage is going down on the Nexus. Najin going up 2-0 and taking out Counter Logic Hero.
Nice job. Najin Sword playing that one so clinically. This looks like a different team from the one we saw in the OGN Champions Summer League right there. They came out with a vengeance, aggression from minute 1. The confidence too, picking early game champions over and over again, saying, you know what, yes, we'll pick Neely to shut down Malphite. We know Malphite's better late game. Nah, they're not even going to get to late game. Karthus, Tristana, no problem. Let's press it now. Let's go for kills now. Let's keep the pressure going. They grabbed a heavy ganking jungler from Maokai who can clear the jungle pretty rapidly and then move on to those lanes and pick up kills. And pick up kills they did. Najin Sword opened up a lot of openings there, dealt a lot of damage, and then closed the door. And they shut that game out. That was amazing play by Sword. Every single move they made was the right one. Beautiful job.
You know, Freak, it's different. Usually you don't see a team consistently going for the support. When it's not a sustained support, and you have somebody that's going to help out their AD carry by a shield and has to stay close in the fight, they picked up so many kills off of Crepo because they continued to power court him. Just Kane doing such an amazing job, continuously harassing, setting up that lane to be ganked, and just killed whenever they wanted. They prepped the turret really early, they were diving under it, and they were just having the time of their life in that bottom lane.
Yeah, it was just absolutely perfect. It was a full poke lane with Sona Ezreal. When you've got a lane like that, you just keep looking for damage. And it seemed like Crepo just wasn't quite ready for that. He kept taking harassment over and over. And I don't want to clown on him. He's an amazing player overall. But that lane really was opened up by Najin Sword and especially Prey and Kane together, opening that bottom lane for all the aggression. So now let's take a look at what that means for Group B so far. We are halfway through Group B. We've got a lot of games played. Let's see what the standings look like here. Najin Sword starting up at the top with 2-0. CLG EU, a little bit of a mixed bag here at 1-1. We're going to see Saigon Jokers versus Team Dignitas up next. thing to remember here is there is still the option of all sorts of crazy, weird ties to still play out here. We've got a lot of games still left to play. The last 3 matches coming from Group B, we still don't know quite who's going to come on through. It's going to be neck and neck. These guys are fighting for elimination with a chance to move on to the quarterfinals tomorrow.
So, Freak, how do you feel about a game? If you were in this one, oh, I love Froggen's build as well at the end. Selling out and buying 4 Haunting guys, just knowing. But coming into this game, when you can't even build what you need to build, your composition isn't even working, then innovative strats need to be brought in. Is there any way to really flop a composition to work a different way while in-game like that?
I think really a lot of that was more their play style than their composition. Okay. I think they weren't prepared for a lot of the openings that were made. I think the general builds they were going for, the champions they went for, those were all still going to work actually quite well. That it was just getting caught out one too many times. We saw that gank at bot lane where they threw away a double kill by jumping onto a Sona with exhaust and crescendo. It was just mistakes made in game. I think they had what it took. They just made a couple of bad decisions. Now, we're going to see one of those game-winning pushes up on the replay to see just exactly what it took for Najin's sword to close this game out. You can see as they go up into that mid lane, it is just Prey dealing so much damage. Wicked dives in. There's that combo. It's Lulu into Malphite. The knockups everywhere. But there's too much damage. They're so high level. They withstood all that burst. And you can just see how little they cared about Requiem because it's only 28 minutes in. Froggen doesn't have 7 items yet. Normally he does by like 35 or so. But it wasn't that time just yet. Not enough farm for him, and they're just an unstoppable train at this point. When you're a team based on damage more so than utility, all you need are golden items, and they were not able to get those, that gold and those items. They were not able to sort of scale up throughout that game. That was Sword putting on that pressure and making that one happen.
Freak, the way they played, and when you're winning in a game, it just opens up so many avenues of ways to win. Usually you see the top lane pushing, but that was all Prey by himself, pushing top, double lift style into the base with Yellow Pete on him the whole time. Just like Double Lift had Shen on him the whole time. Just continuously knowing the mechanics, knowing the limit of your champion and saying, I can get the most out of this right now. And having that in different parts of the map, knowing that your team just has a complete upper hand to dictate the game is really what just made it look like that was an easy game for them.
And it was a couple of tricky risks as well, though. The dives early on, the pushes on the turrets, especially that split push where they knew it was 4v5 on the bottom lane, and they still went for it. They actually still went aggressive. Sword, they went in, oh, there's 5 of you? Okay, we'll back out. I think Wicked went back. Now let's go back in and try to bait some more effort out, right? Let's try to keep them, down to this bottom lane. And the entire time, Prey's like, no, I'm not helping you guys. I'm going to kill a turret. Like, don't worry, you guys are fine. I believe in you, right? And so, to have that confidence to say, it's hard to kill secondary turrets. It's hard to get turrets number 4, 5, and 6. Yep. It's a bit difficult overall for a team. And one of the best ways to do that is to split push. But you have to have the confidence to sit in that 4v5 and the mechanics to not give up those kills. Prey, it was pretty easy. It's 1v0 for a long time. He just started killing minions and the turret fell. That was not too bad. The rest of that team to have the confidence to still pull that out and not give anything up, because that's where you open up comebacks, when you make these silly little mistakes where you get outnumbered on purpose, but it worked out for them, so really great play.
All right, guys, so coming up next, we see Dignitas go up against Saigon Jokers. We'll be back in just a few minutes with the League of Legends Season 2 Championship matchups.